This is very much a impromptu sort of insight into who I am, what I've done. We'll try and just cover a few pointers that you may have seen, thought about, and be aware of, or you may not. Basically, a little bit of background about me so that you can get a picture of where my knowledge comes from. It's all totally practical knowledge. It's stuff I haven't been to anything except I've done export in many places. I started my own business in 1978. I built a brand called Opal London, which was one of the leading brands became a leading brand in the body rub and scrub business, body care, accessories. That gave me a lot of insight into going to different places. The company was originally called Opal Crafts Limited, and we launched a brand called Opal London with the idea that we tie this word London on the back of the opal, and we'll go out into the world and export because everybody will recognise London. Well, of course, we picked the wrong time to do that, bang in the recession of 1992. That was when the brand launched. And we went out into the world and tried to find routes to market. I'm here to talk really about how to do certain things and what you might expect to find. I mean, if you've got a list of the talk, it says managing the costs incurred in flights, accommodation, transportation, etc. That's one of the basic questions. I mean, fortunately, in today's market, we've got these wonderful tools on the internet to find the best way of. Certainly, accommodation's a piece of cake. Flights are a piece of cake. Once you've decided where you're going to go, you can cross-reference and find the cheapest way. So there's nothing I can talk to you about there. I'm sure it's pretty blooming obvious. One area that might concern most, though, is actually getting your products to wherever it is you've decided to show. And we'll talk about potential different venues in a minute. But basically, there are ways of getting there, and from my experience, it's obviously very dependent on the kind of products that you sell, because if you've got very small packs and you can just stick it in your hand luggage, that's great. If you're using other systems, you'll find that in certain countries, in fact most countries that I do business with, has been America, Japan, Hong Kong, Australia. Most of the cheapest way to do it is to contact with the hotel that you're working with and freight something out yourself. Because although there are plenty of companies, logistics companies, will take products to the hall for you, that costs money. The best way I've always found it, certainly for small businesses, is to have a word with the hotel that they will take in parcels to your name, and basically then back on the internet, find that cheapest spot, because it's amazing the difference between what DHL will charge you on their rack rate, and then you go on and cross-reference it with a load of places and suddenly find your product's going through a middleman via DHL for half the price. So those are the sort of things that they're pretty obvious, but they're there. And so if you start taking stuff direct to venue, it's much more expensive. I've just come back from doing something in Tokyo, big site, and I took it all with me as luggage, as luggage on the plane. That's another little thing could be relevant, that certain airlines give you a slightly better 5 kilos extra. The baggage can be worth a lot if that's what you're going to do. Don't necessarily take the cheapest flight, because you might find you can only take 20 kilos, whereas if you go with a different airline, it might cost you 50 quid more, but they take 35 kilos. So those are the things. They're pretty obvious things, but that's what this is all about. You sometimes don't think of them at the time because you're used to traveling in different ways. So I would say that transportation of stuff to the stand is better sometimes to keep it simple and look what the organisers offer you in terms of stand fixtures, rather than worry about too much yourself. It all depends on how seriously you are in the business. If you've got a road show on the road, and I met a company down in it was it actually at Big Site. This show, they ship from one venue to the next, to the next, to the next. I don't think that's where we're at. I think initially you're going to go out there and you're going to find your feet at a particular type of show. So again, you look at the organising venues, see what lighting they offer, the usual stuff that's here. You can rent everything. It seems a bit expensive, and in some instances, it's really worthwhile thinking about getting there a little bit earlier and maybe going to the world's favourite shop, IKEA, and buying stuff and just leave it on the stand at the end of the show, rather than freight it out there, because it costs you more in the freight than anything else. That's the managing the costs element. Now, I've got down here getting results from overseas trade shows. What might you expect? And there's a vast array. You've got to decide, I think, if you're going into the business, you have to have a little bit of a feeling about what it is you're specially got that you're trying to sell abroad, and then decide where you feel your easiest market might be or your biggest market might be. You will find, without a doubt, and I can talk about this for quite a long time, that there is a huge variation between going to, say, the States, pop into Jarvis Centre in the New York. That's a very, very good exhibition. A totally different experience than going to, as it's top of my list, I've just done Tokyo, to going to Big Site in Tokyo. Very different expectation from the customer. And that's very important to understand before you even step out into the world. There are ways of going that you don't go yourself. You send parts as part of a mission, if you like. You send it out as part of something else. I, in fact, have another little area myself called Link Up GB, where we actually take out other people's products to our own stands. We represent them as best we can. We give better feedback than you get from, say, the local representation you might have. I mean, the GA offer a space on some of their stands where you can actually send out product, not go buy a space for £150 or something like that. I would not advise that at all. It doesn't give you any feedback, because the important thing about doing a trade show, as we all know, is getting the right kind of feedback. Is this customer right for me? How do you get that if you give it to, in the nicest possible way, some of these are very nice people, but they can't measure, they're not measuring your business for you. You need to have either be there yourself to get the feel about what the customers are like, or you have to give it to somebody, involve yourself with something like the operation that I'm offering, where we get a face-to-face with the customer, so then we pass that information back to you, the supplier, how you want to follow it through. I will say that there is a huge variation between customer expectation at trade shows. We see these shows here. We come here, and I imagine most of you are showing here anyway, and your gratification is, I like that, here's an order. We love that. 15 years ago in this country, we were standing there, we never got off the stand, we were writing all the time, because the expectation of the customer was to come here and spend. That expectation has tailed off in the UK. There's now a lot of interaction. It's more B2B. Yes, I like what you're doing, send the rep in, or I'll look you up on the website. All the other ways of getting to the reaction you're going to get the customer is different now in this country than it was before. And the same goes for overseas shows. There are key overseas shows. If you're just shooting for your retail customer, for example, you think America. We all think, God, if I get into America, break America, it's fantastic. Yeah, it's true. Go to an American show, open your stand. Somebody's going to come along and say, I love what you got. Oh, yeah, I love it. Just talk to me. I love that accent. It's fabulous. You know, just talk to me. And I'd like to buy some of your stuff. So, yeah, you're right. How much is it? Well, how much are you going to pitch it at? Now, that's a very important question. How do you decide initially what your selling price is going to be. And that depends in itself on the type of marketplace that you're presenting yourself. So basically, those that you've got to think about, how is that product going to get to my customer, and what is that customer, how are they going to retail my product, and how am I going to support them? You need to have that in your head before you go to a trade show. It's no good just rolling up and saying, oh, I just got my stuff, I've just done autumn fair and I've got my price list here and this is what it is, and I'll tell you what I'll do, I can do this and I'll give you, because you're an export, I'll give you 10% off, and that's FOB or that's X-Works Glasgow. And they're going to go, yeah, great, but what does that mean? Because everybody wants to know, how much does it cost me? I mean, we've just done the show here. What everybody wants to know, what's your minimum order? What's your carriage paid? What's this, that, and everything else? You have to be a little bit prepared to what is likely to happen. So you have to do a little bit insight into the marketplace as to how you're going to maintain that supply line. Once you've got these customers in your pocket, the retailers that you really want, the people that you know that your stuff's going to appear in their stores, how's that going to be supported? In America, you have to go with the idea that it's great if you're selling cards. Fabulous, no problem at all. You know, you can get a package sent over. You can cost the weight of 1,000 cards or 100 cards or 50 cards. They can go straight out from your warehouse, but you've still got to give that customer a price on their shore in a currency they understand. Go to America and offer stuff in English pounds, you will lose the interest of 3/4 of the potential retail customers that come on the stand. You've got to address them in their own currency. Go out to Hong Kong, you're going to have to be talking dollars because you're going to be talking to people who only recognize dollars. Go to Tokyo, Japan, they want to know what it means in Japanese yen. So you have to work your pricing out to do best. You have to work your pricing out. What does it be from a particular point in the country of which I'm working? So America, you have to have a way to distribute the product. A freight forwarder who can then break bulk. You probably have to back it up a little bit with stock the second time round, but the first time round you need to have a route. And the problem with Americans is they want it tomorrow. They don't want it in 6 weeks' time when you could have made it. You've already got to have committed yourself to the idea that you can move it very quickly initially, possibly make no money on the first interaction. Another little thing about America is worth knowing is that people expect to pay carriage from a particular point, as long as it's in the shores of which you're. So if you're doing a New York fair, you could say my stuff is all available. The pricing I'm giving you is X. Place of choice, Manhattan, whatever, I don't know, but you need to be quoting them not from abroad. The dynamics are a bit different are completely different, if you like, in a place like, I'm going back to a big site because that's where we've just come back from. That's Japan. The Japanese expectation is that you have even if you're offering them a price, they want to know who's going to represent you, who's representing you. Where is this product coming from? And you go, well, I thought you just might like it. I've arranged a freight forwarder and you can get it and it's dead easy. And they're going to say, well, no, I actually want to have it from my distributor. So then they've got to, the customer's introducing you, the end user customer's introducing you to their distributor. So you've got to be very careful what price you've already put on that product, because once you've opened your mouth about the price, you've got to realize that they're going to put somebody else in the way. You cannot get direct to retail end in that country. You can in America because the Americans are very bobbing and weaving, trying to get the minimum price. If you want to set up in America, then you've got to think of it slightly differently. You have to decide what it is where you want to be. You can't busk it, really, because once you've opened your mouth and given your pricing away, if you have to back up an American operation, usually you have to stock the stuff there. Their cost of agencies, etc., is 20%. You know, it's more than you might expect over here. You know, people have a higher expectation. There's another 5 for your stock costs. There's quite a lot of ingrained costings that you've got to make sure you kind of understand. The other thing you need to know a little bit about, and it's so blooming obvious, but HTS codes, anybody know what they are? It's your it's your tariff code. So people will ask you, what's the tariff code? Well, because they want to know what the duty's going to be. In certain places, they will want to know that. If you go to Hong Kong, definitely the first thing the guy's going to say is, right, what's your price? What is it? How big is it? How many do I have to buy? MOQs, blah, blah, blah. He wants to talk about that, the overview, and he's going to want to know what, if he's a good buyer, he wants to know what the tariff code is, because he'll check and see how much it's going to cost him into his own country. If you go to America, you should have reworked that yourself. You should have worked it out. Just, you know what your HTS code is for your products, or your HS code, and you check out with you check that out before with their import, what's like to be on the price. Because when you quote the American person, it's got to be the finished price. It's got to be the price from your warehousing or from your distribution point in the States. I mean, those are they're quite different dynamic shows. One where you get the gratification immediately, you get the order immediately, and guess what? You've got to deliver it immediately. Are you geared up for that? And again, very much personal, very much dependent on your actual products. Selecting which shows to attend, I've got down here, and before I completely run over, it's the question. And that depends, I think we've covered on certain aspects of it. It depends very much on your type of operation, whether it's all got to be English-based, if you want different labeling. And by the way, don't forget, if it's going abroad, if it's going to somewhere like America, it's got to have country of origin on it. You've got, the CO is legally required. You can't get in the country without it. And that's very embarrassing when it turns up at customs. They open your box of beautifully made things, and it doesn't actually tell you on the box that it was, country of origin is wherever it happens to be. I mean, a lot of us are making stuff in China, and a very good way of doing that is to ensuring that you've covered that is on your packaging, put designed in the UK, manufactured in China. Don't use made in, because we don't like that. Manufacture, you know. So these are like key little things that you stick on your packaging when you're doing your packaging. Make sure you got that on there, because although it's not necessary if you're going to export purely into Europe, Europe doesn't demand that. Everywhere else in the world, you'll find you can fall over if you haven't got your country of origin somewhere on your packaging. Different shows to attend, as I said, it depends. I can talk about that. There are obviously certain shows where you get a drawback from the government. Sadly, not very many anymore. That doesn't make them the best shows. My own belief is that we have to we should see the quality of the buyers we get here. I don't know how you've found that if you've been here all week. But the quality of the buyer here is they're very good, like mama papa stores, are short, and the smaller operators, maybe 2 or 3. But the real bigger players don't even come here. So you've got, if you really want to get out and get your stuff seen, the funniest thing in the world is I just came back from Hong Kong last time. I did the mega show, and one of the best customers I got is actually based 300 yards from my office in Glasgow. Never seen him before. He's never passed me or stopped at any trade, anything here. He stopped over there because I got my big I'm part of a UK thing. He wants to chat. I'm obviously from that area, from Europe. He turns around and I find out he's from 200 yards down the road. He would have never found me. So I'm of a belief that you do go out in the world, you've got to decide where the spotlight falls. Where's the spotlight falling for your product? And where are you going to be the biggest hit? Different reasons to go to different places. If you've got really traditional products, good English brand, Burberry recognised kind of style of something, you will go down well in some of the Far East shows. But it's not just by going to the, so you say, oh, why would you show in Hong Kong? Well, I tell you what, because you're going to meet the buyer from Macy's, you're going to meet the buyer from House of Fraser. They'll be wandering around because they got the budget to go there. They don't spend the budget coming here. So how do you get to those people? You look at where they go. I mean, I was with the Boots, Meet Boots a few months back. I don't know, it was organised by a GA, very good. I got to meet the top in my area, which at the time was health and beauty, and the very, very nice lady who you would never get through the door to meet. And I said, well, where do you go? What shows do you come to? You know, I don't think I've ever met you at a trade show in this country. She said, oh, I don't come to trade shows in England. Come on. I send a few people out, but you know, I go to, and she gave me a list of places. And I said, well, hang on a minute. I've got to make sure I'm there. There's no point in me coming here. If I want that customer, I've got to go where they're going to be. So you have to have a sort of a little thought thinking about where is the spotlight falling. I think that's my 20 minutes overrun almost. Is it the best way to build business? Is it short-term gain? Well, it isn't a short-term gain. You've got to be in it to win it. You've got to be prepared. It doesn't come, you know, it's not instant response. It's not, I'm going to be rich, I'm going to go there, hooray. Because if you've thought about it properly, you've either thought about it you have to think about a long term. Medium term, not short term. You will not gain in a short term unless you've got a very simple product that's very, very easy to ship, and you have and you fall lucky the first time round because it's hard to make that relationship.